The rain on Proxima b fell in sheets of purple, coating the landscape in a glistening film that smelled faintly of cinnamon. Fiona Weller adjusted her environmental suit and wiped the condensation from her visor. 6 months into her botanical survey, and the planet still found ways to surprise her. Base. This is Weller. I'm tracking those crystalline formations we spotted from orbit there. Unusual. She crouched beside a cluster of translucent stones, their surfaces reflecting fractals of light despite the dim surroundings. Copy that, Weller, came the static-laden response. Remember, collection only, no heroics. Fiona rolled her eyes. Dr. Harrison's condescension was becoming tiresome. Understood? Though I'd hardly call rock collecting heroic. She withdrew her scanner, running it over the formation. The readings flickered, then stabilized into patterns she'd never seen before. As she leaned closer, a soft humming filled her ears. Not through her comes this was somehow inside her head, a gentle vibration that felt almost like a melody. Base. Are you picking up any audio anomalies? She asked. Negative. All readings normal, Fiona frowned. The sound was getting louder now, pulling her attention toward a narrow ravine cutting through the violet foliage. Against her better judgment, she followed it, recording her observations as she went. The crystals appear more concentrated as I move deeper into the canyon. They single quotes. Pulsing somehow. Synchronized. The ravine opened into a small clearing where a massive formation rose like a cathedral. The humming became a symphony, complex and structured in ways that suggested intelligence rather than natural phenomena. Fiona approached slowly, her heart pounding beneath her suit. This is incredible, she whispered, touching the surface of the largest crystal. It warmed beneath her fingertips, the light within swirling in response. That's when she heard a sound distinctly unlike the crystalline song. A whimper, organic and fragile, coming from a small cave entrance partially hidden by the formation. Fiona hesitated. Protocol dictated she should call for backup. Instead, she switched on her helmet lamp and ducked inside. The cave walls were lined with the same crystals, their light pulsing in time with the sound. At the center lay a small bundle wrapped in fabric that seemed to shift between states of matter, sometimes solid, sometimes flowing like liquid metal. And inside a child. Not human, that much was clear from the iridescent skin that glowed with internal light. The infant couldn't have been more than a few months old, with wide eyes the color of nebulae and delicate features that seemed almost sculpted. It reached toward her with perfect little hands, and the crystals around them flared in response. Oh my God, she whispered, kneeling beside the child. The fabric it was wrapped in bore intricate symbols, curves, and angles that hurt her eyes when she tried to focus on them. Her gums crackled. Weller, your vitals just spiked. Report. The baby made another sound, and the crystals dimmed slightly, as if hiding. Just startled by some local wildlife, she lied, surprising herself. Nothing dangerous. She couldn't explain the sudden, overwhelming certainty that reporting this discovery would be catastrophic. The child reached for her again, and without thinking, Fiona lifted it into her arms. The humming changed, became warmer, almost grateful. What are you doing out here all alone? She whispered. Her scanner beeped, displaying readings of both human and unknown DNA structures intertwined in impossible ways. Something had left this child here, something that understood human biology well enough to create a hybrid. Base. I'm heading back. Found some interesting samples. As she carefully wrapped the child back in its strange blanket, Fiona knew her life had irrevocably changed. Whoever this was, she couldn't abandon it to the elements or to the cold calculations of corporate research protocols. The infant made a soft cooing sound, and overhead the storm clouds parted, revealing a sky filled with stars. Somewhere among them, Fiona sensed, someone was looking for this child, and she had just made herself part of that story. You brought back what? Darius Novan's voice echoed through the decontamination chamber as Fiona stepped aboard the Helix, the strange bundle cradled against her chest. Lower your voice, she hissed, glancing nervously at the corridor cameras. I need your help. Not a broadcast to the entire ship. Darius ran a hand through his dark curls, a habit when he was anxious. As the ship's engineer, he'd bent plenty of rules, but smuggling an alien life form aboard crossed into new territory. In my quarters. Now. His voice was stern, but his eyes betrayed curiosity. Once inside, Fiona carefully unwrapped the child. In the ship's artificial light, its skin shimmered even more dramatically, shifting between azure and silver. I'm calling him Orion, she said softly. Darius leaned closer, professional caution giving way to wonder. Biologically impossible, he whispered, as the baby grasped his finger with surprising strength. He's warm, higher body temperature than humans. What? Scanners showed human DNA mixed with something else. Something. Not in our databases. When Orion began to cry, the lights in Darius's quarters flickered. He frowned, checking his tablet. Power fluctuation. That's not a coincidence, is it? Fiona shook her head. Okay, the crystals where I found him responded to. His sounds, I think he's connected to energy somehow. Darius ran a diagnostic on his tablet. We need to keep him hidden. If Harrison finds out, I know. Fiona's face hardened. The company would turn him into a research project. We need supplies, formula, clothing. I can modify the replicator in my workshop. Darius was already planning, his initial shock transforming into protective determination. Over the next week, they established a routine. Darius created a shielded cradle that masked Orion's unique energy signature from ship sensors. Fiona analyzed the fabric he was found in, discovering microscopic technology woven into each fiber. During the night cycle, when most crew members were asleep, they would take turns walking with Orion through the observation deck. The stars seemed to calm him, especially when they passed certain constellations. He watches them like he recognizes them, Darius noted one night, standing closer to Fiona than was strictly necessary. Like he's looking for home, or someone is looking for him, Fiona replied, leaning slightly against Darius's shoulder. There. Hands brushed, lingered. The tension between them had been building since academy days, but now it was transforming into something deeper. Forged in shared secrecy. The ship's alert system interrupted the moment. Unidentified vessels detected. At long-range scan perimeter, they rushed to the bridge, Orion hidden in Fiona's thermal jacket. On the main display, 3 ships unlike any human design moved in precise formation, scanning methodically. What are they looking for? Captain Winters wondered aloud in Fiona's arms. Orion stirred, his skin pulsing with light that she struggled. To conceal us, Darius whispered. For her ears only. They're looking for him. That night, in the privacy of Fiona's quarters, Darius ran his fingers over the symbols on Orion's blanket. I've been through every linguistic database. Nothing matches. Fiona sat beside him, their shoulders touching. We're in over our heads, aren't we? Instead of answering, Darius turned to her, cupping her face in his hands. The kiss was gentle. At first, then urgent, with months of unspoken longing. Whatever happens, he murmured against her lips, we're in this together. In his improvised crib, Orion cooed softly, and across the room, a small crystal sample Fiona had collected began to glow, resonating with a frequency that spread through the ship's hull, broadcasting into the void like a beacon. Vesta Station hung in space like a tarnished coin, its rotating rings catching the light of the twin suns. It's not the most reputable port, but the only one within range where the Helix could refuel without extensive corporate oversight. Remember. The story, Fiona whispered as they approached the docking bay. He's my nephew. Rare genetic condition. Darius adjusted the modified environmental suit they'd created for Orion, complete with a reflective visor that hid his unusual eyes. The suit suppresses his energy signature, but not completely. Captain Winters had been suspicious, but hadn't asked questions when they requested shore leave. For hours, she'd said. Then we're back on corporate time. The station was a maze of market stalls and shadowy alcoves, air thick with the mingled sense of a dozen worlds. Fiona kept Orion close, navigating toward the supplies they needed, while Darius scanned for threats. Over there, he nodded toward a small shop nestled between 2 larger establishments. Specialized equipment. Off-market. The proprietor, a rail-thin man with augmented eyes, watched them approach. Tourists? Asked. Voice like gravel. Travelers, Darius corrected. We need specialized environmental control systems, discreet ones. The man studied them, augmented pupils dilating. For the little one, I assume? He gestured toward Orion. Unusual energy pattern there. Not many species oscillate like that. Fiona tensed, ready to run, but the man raised his hands placatingly. Tarek, he introduced himself. Former xenobiologist. Before corporate science got too restrictive, I know discretion. While Darius negotiated for supplies, Tarek leaned closer to Fiona. The fabric, he whispered. The one beneath his suit. May I see it? Reluctantly, Fiona revealed a small corner of Orion's blanket. Tarek's augmented eyes widened, mechanical irises spinning rapidly. Meridian Collective, he breathed. Those symbols, a royal lineage. Where did you find him? You recognize this? Fiona's heart raced. Tarek's expression grew grave. The child you're carrying is Meridian royalty. Probably a peace-bond offspring, their way of creating diplomatic ties. He glanced around nervously. If he's with you instead of his people, something went very wrong. Commotion erupted near the docking. Bazrae's voices, the distinct sound of energy weapons powering up. Imperial hunters, Tarek hissed. They've been through here twice already. Scanning. He pointed to a back door. Service tunnels. Take them. Find the outpost on Elysium. I'll never track you through the ionosphere there. Darius grabbed the supplies in Fiona's hand. Why are you helping us? Tarek's smile was bitter. The Meridians once saved my world from collapse. Consider this repayment. He pressed a small crystal into Fiona's palm. A key. For when you reach Elysium. They fled through the tunnels, the sounds of pursuit growing closer. Orion remained eerily quiet, as if understanding the danger. Back at the ship, Captain Winters was furious. Unauthorized departure. You've lost your minds. We need to leave. Now. Darius was already initiating launch sequences. The hunters reached the docking bay as the Helix's engines fired. Energy blasts scorched the hull, alarms blaring throughout the ship.
What have you done?
Winters demanded as the ship broke orbit, suit vessels closing fast. Fiona revealed Orion, whose visor had slipped, revealing eyes now glowing with intensity. The captain stared, speechless. Set course for Elysium, Fiona said quietly. Our only chance. As if in response, Orion raised a tiny hand toward the viewscreen. The pursuing ships suddenly veered off course. Their systems momentarily scrambled. In the moment of calm that followed, Darius pulled Fiona close, their foreheads touching. I've never hijacked a research vessel before, he whispered. Despite everything, she smiled. First time for everything. Elysium appeared through the viewport like a dreama, swirling blue-green orb, shrouded in luminescent clouds. The abandoned research outpost sat on its northern continent, half reclaimed by the planet's unusual flora, atmospheric conditions. Scramble most tracking systems, Darius explained to the uneasy crew as they descended. We should be safe here. Captain Winters had been surprisingly adaptable once she understood the situation. I didn't sign up to hand over a child and a child too. Hunters, she'd declared. The rest of the small crew had followed her lead, though tension remained palpable. The outpost came to life sluggishly as they connected power systems. Decades abandoned, yet its architecture remained sound, a testament to the engineers who had built it to study Elysium's unique properties. The whole planet is mildly psychoactive, Fiona noted, reviewing old research logs. The indigenous plants produce compounds that induce heightened empathy and telepathic receptivity in most species. As night fell, the bioluminescent fog around the outpost thickened. Tendrils of light seeping through windows and ventilation systems. Orion, now free from his restrictive suit, crawled happily through the command center, leaving trails of gentle light wherever his skin touched surfaces. He's growing so fast, Fiona whispered to Darius as they watched him from a monitoring station. In just weeks, the infant had developed the mobility of a human toddler. Darius wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her close. Their relationship had evolved with the intensity of their circumstances, physical boundaries dissolving under the weight of shared purpose. "The crew is calling you to Mom and Dad, you know," Captain Winters remarked, joining them with cups of synthesized coffee. Fiona blushed, but didn't pull away from Darius. "Or just save it," Winters smiled. "Some things are obvious, even to an old space rat like me," said that night. In the privacy of their shared quarters, passion finally overwhelmed caution. Their bodies moved together with the urgency of those who understood how fragile existence could be, hands mapping territories both had imagined but never explored until now. "I think I've been falling for you since the academy," Darius confessed, tracing patterns on her bare shoulder afterward. "You never said anything," Fiona murmured against his chest. "Neither did you." They were interrupted by a soft glow emanating from Orion's sleeping area. The child wasn't there. Panic surged until they spotted him in the center of the room, hovering several inches above the floor, surrounded by symbols of light identical to those on his blanket. As they watched, symbols expanded, filling the room with a three-dimensional star chart unlike any human mapping system. Specific stars pulsed with significance. "He's trying to show us something," Fiona whispered. When they approached, images flooded their minds, a civilization of beings with Orion's iridescent skin. Internal conflict, a peace initiative involving genetic blending with compatible species, a planned exchange interrupted by attack. They were bringing him somewhere, Darius realized. The hunters aren't retrieving him, they're trying to prevent the exchange. The next morning, they discovered the outpost had changed. Systems previously dormant had activated. Ancient technology, far beyond human design, hummed beneath the standard equipment. This wasn't just a research station, Captain Winters concluded, examining newly revealed panels. It was a meeting point. Orion toddled to a central console and placed his hand on it. The crystal Taric had given them pulsed in Fiona's pocket. Understanding, she placed it in a newly formed receptacle. The outpost trembled, realigning itself like a puzzle solving its own configuration. A message appeared in the same symbols from Orion's blanket, slowly translating into human language. "Bridge. Protocol initiated, awaiting final authorization." Dawn broke over Elysium in waves of amber and rose, the bioluminescent fog retreating like a tide. The outpost, now clearly something far more significant, had rearranged itself into a configuration that hummed with potential energy. Imperial. "Vessels entering orbit," announced the communications officer. 6 of them, heavily armed. Captain Winters looked to Fiona and Darius, who stood with Orion between them. "Oh, whatever you're planning, now would be the time." Orion had continued developing. At an accelerated rate, now able to walk steadily, he approached the central console again, placing both hands on its surface. The crystal key pulsed with increasing intensity. "We need to activate the bridge," Fiona said, though she wasn't entirely sure what that meant. The knowledge seemed to come from somewhere beyond her own understanding. Darius nodded, placing his hands over Orion's. Together, Fiona joined them, completing the circuit. Energy surged through the outpost, the translation matrix revealing. New information: bridge requires shared consciousness. All participants must consent to neural interface. "What does that mean?" Captain Winters asked. "It means we need to let him into our minds," Fiona realized. "Completely." Darius tightened his grip on her hand. "I trust him. I trust us." The decision made, they closed their eyes. Orion's consciousness expanded into theirs, not invasive, but encompassing, like being embraced by the cosmos itself. Through his perception, they understood everything. The Meridian Collective was ancient, evolved beyond physical limitations. They had watched humanity's development with interest, but maintained distance until human expansion threatened to bring the species into contact with the imperial hegemonia, predatory civilization that consumed younger species. Orion was the first of planned emissaries' children, born of both worlds, who could serve as bridges between civilizations. The attack that separated him from his guardians had been orchestrated by imperial forces to prevent an alliance. Above them, imperial vessels began their descent, weapons charging. "They're coming," the tactical officer warned. But Orion was smiling. The bridge was already activating. Space folded inward, creating a doorway where none had existed. Through it emerged 3 vessels of impossible geometry, their surfaces reflecting light that seemed to originate from nowhere. The Imperial ships halted their approach. Within the outpost, a shimmering figure coalesced, humanoid but clearly Meridian. With the same iridescent skin as Orion, when it spoke, the words formed directly in their minds. You have protected our hope. For this, the collective offers gratitude beyond measure. Captain Winters stepped forward. The Imperials are still out there. Not for long, the figure replied. Outside, the Meridian vessels surrounded the Imperial ships. No weapons fired, but one by one. The Imperial vessels simply ... ceased. Not destroyed, simply removed from this plane of existence. They have been relocated, the figure explained. To contemplate expansion in a dimension less conducive to conquest, the figure approached Orion, who reached up happily. There was clear recognition between them. Calls me father in our way, the figure explained to Fiona and Darius. Though our concepts of parenthood differ from yours, Fiona felt tears. Forming, you're taking him. That is your choice to make. You have become his parents as much as any Meridian. He needs both worlds now. Darius looked at Fiona, then back to the figure. What are you suggesting? Become our emissaries. The bridge works in both directions. Orion can return with me to complete his development among our kind, but you would not be separated. You would be the first humans to truly know the collective and help prevent future Imperial incursions. Captain Winters added pragmatically. Decision wasn't easy, but in their hearts, they'd already made it. Fiona and Darius had crossed too many thresholds to turn back now. We'll need time, Fiona said, to prepare, to explain to our people. The figure nodded. Time is something we understand well. We will wait. Later, as they stood on the outposts. Observation deck watching Meridian engineers install permanent bridge technology, Darius pulled Fiona close. When I signed up for botanical research support, this wasn't in the job description, he murmured against her hair. She laughed softly. Are you complaining about becoming an interstellar diplomat with our adopted energy-manipulating son? At all, he turned her to face him, eyes serious now. I'm just saying, of all the people who could have found him, I'm glad it was you. Someone who heard the music in the stones when no one else could. Orion joined them, taking both their hands. Through their connected thoughts, they felt his contentment and his excitement for what was to come. Above them, the stars seemed closer. Somehow, no longer distant points of light, but doorways to a future none of them could have imagined. The bridge was open. They would cross it together.